Welcome to another FireCapture tutorial. Today I'm going to show you the additional capture tools available in FireCapture. As you see, I've started FireCapture in dummy cam mode without a camera connected in the most recent version, which is version 2.5. The additional capture tools are installed by default in the horizontal toolbar over here. If for some reason they don't show up in your installation, you can just click on that plus sign over here and just select them from the toolbar actions list and add them to the toolbar. There are three tools available. The first one is Autorun, the next is Timelapse, and the last one is a script interface. Let's start with Autorun. If you click on that Autorun button over here, another window pops up, and Autorun is a tool that allows you taking an arbitrary number of recordings. The userface is just simple. Insert the number of your recordings you'd like to take, the delay between each recording. Let's try this. I'd like to take 10 recordings with a delay of 3 seconds between, and each recording should have a limit. So you click on that limit button over here. So for the demo, I just use a short limit, let's say 100 frames. Okay, that's basically all you need to insert. And you see the schedule in the list over here. You see the scheduled recordings. The current filter is L. I don't have select another filter. And Autorun, if you start Autorun, it always uses the current filter. As you also see over here, the capture details are disabled if you start the Autorun. So you can't change the profile or the filter over here. It's just disabled as long as the Autorun window is opened. Okay, the details of your sequence are visible in the list over here. The delays displays a limit, and the last column shows the status of the progress. If you just start Autorun over here, it will run through that sequence, and you see the status of each recording. Okay, I'm going to cancel this. If you have, you can have other option to use an RGB sequence. If you have an RGB sequence defined, you can take full RGB sequences per run. The RGB sequence is defined in the filter settings. I'm going to close this and show you. If you open the filter settings, you can define an arbitrary RGB sequence. It's just a sequence you defined over here from the filter drop-down list. I have now defined and using an RGB sequence, RGB, and let's switch to the R filter, and let's open Autorun again. So now you see it selects the current filter. And I can also say I want to use full RGB sequences per run. If I enable this checkbox over here, you see it now creates 10 entries. It creates basically 30 entries and 10 sequences, 10 full RGB sequences. In our example here now, it would capture 10 full RGB sequences, so we end up in 30 single recordings. The procedure is just the same. You click on that start button, and it runs through the sequence. Let's stop this again. There are two more options available. If the sequence takes a long time and we would like to visit a pub for a beer or whatever, you can select the shutdown option over here. And when selected, FireCapture will shut itself the computer down and finished. The other option over here is if you like to use a delay before the first recording as well. So if not selected, FireCapture will start immediately with the sequence. Otherwise, it will apply the delay you have chosen here for the first recording as well. Okay, I think that's all for Autorun. Let's switch to Timelapse. That's the second button over here. Timelapse, it's a handling. Basically, it's just the same. You click on that button, it pops up a new window, and the capture details are disabled again. And Timelapse, as the name suggests, allows you to take time-lapse recordings. Usage is also simple. You need to define the length of you recording by inserting as a limit over here. In our example now we have a limit of 60 minutes, and you need to define the delay between each frame. And with the delay now, we have a limit of 60 minutes and a delay of 60 seconds between each frame. So in total, we would end up close to 60 frames. The resulting frame number is shown here in the progress bar, and also the file size. The resulting frame number obviously depends also on exposure time. So with long exposure, you would end up with less frames. There's an estimated frame count shown over here. It takes the current exposure time into account, so this should be pretty close to what we would end up with your recording. There are some other options available. If you want to take more than just a single time lapse, you can define the number of repetitions. Example, when there are two recordings, it will, when selecting the peak count 2, it will create two separate time-lapse recordings. So you can also choose different file types. It selects AVI as default, so you can choose also a couple of other file types over here. You can there's also an option to insert a timestamp into each frame. So when inserting, it will print a timestamp into each frame. And you can there's also option to delay the starting of the time lapse. So if you want to start the time lapse for some reason later, you just enable this option and then say when and define the delay in minutes when the timestamp recording should start it. There is one more interesting option which is disabled now as I'm in dummy cam mode. If you run a real camera, this would be enabled, and this is an option you could use to create a virtual camera movement. If you have chosen an image size smaller than the max image size of the camera, this option allows you to move the region of interest over the sensor during the time lapse. So just give you an example. For instance, if the current width of the image is 60 pixels smaller than the max image width of your camera, FireCapture would shift the position of the image 60 pixels from left to right while the time-lapse is running. So the final time-lapse recording looks like the camera has been panned during the time-lapse. You can check the FireCapture YouTube channel for some examples I've taken with this technique. Okay, just the starting of the time-lapse is just click on that start button and it starts the sequence. So you see now we have chosen two separate time lapses, so the overall progress bar is shown here. So okay, let's stop this again, and I guess it's all for the time lapse. Now let's switch to the script interface. This is the third button over here. The script interface is still a bit experimental with just some basic commands currently. But even so, it allows creating some interesting sequences. Just as an example where it could be used, imagine the number of RGB sequences we did in the Autorun before. Suppose you would like to insert a delay between each RGB sequence. So instead of running it right through, so this is currently isn't possible with Autorun, but you can do this with the script interface instead. So the script interface basically consists of two parts. The left part is editor, a text editor where you can write your script. It's very similar like a normal text editor. The right part over here is a list with available commands. At the top there are buttons to open and save a script file. FireCapture stores the files with a .script extension, but these are normal text files, so these are normal text files and can be opened by any text editor. I also placed an information button here with two example scripts, just to give you an impression how to use the commands. You can open the script. You can open scripts using the button over here, but you can also drag and drop them from the Windows Explorer directly into the window. Let's start with a new script. I'm starting with a command. Command starts with two slashes. So insert just a basically stupid comment. Okay, I'm trying to create a simple example I mentioned earlier with 10 RGB sequences and adding a delay between each sequence. So let's try this here in the script. I start with a loop. The loop is here. I can just double click on that command and it copies it into the script section. You see, but while entering these values over here, okay, loop 10 just means repeat 10 recordings. Okay, as next I'm setting the filter, so I click on that filter, set filter action, and I'm setting the R filter. As you see, while inserting, it checks the argument. So if you insert a filter which is unknown, it shows you a warning over here. It's argument invalid. So I'm just selecting the R filter. Then next I add the start capture command. Let's say in our example we would like to take 100 frames. So you need 100 F. F is abbreviation for frames, and you can also use seconds, 2 seconds. So I think you guess how it goes on. It's just you then switch to setting the G filter, and again the start capture. So let's say 60 seconds. We keep this. Next, last one is the B filter, so set filter again with the B, and starting the capture with whatever, 100 frames again. And the last command would be the end loop. You see already you have started a loop and you need to close the loop, so I'm just adding the end loop command. So now this would be an RGB sequence, 10 separate recordings with full RGB sequences. So that's what we basically did with the Autorun. But what I'd like to do now is place a delay between each RGB sequence. So that's what I cannot do in the script interface here. I can just add a wait command, which is here in the list order available. So I can pick on this one. And the wait command defines the delay, and the delay for the wait command, the parameter here is in milliseconds. So to wait for say 10 minutes, you need to insert 600,000. So now the script is valid. You don't see an error message over here, and this is now a RGB. It's the same as we did with the Autorun, 10 separate RGB sequences and a delay with 10 minutes between each RGB sequence. So when starting the script, over here, you see it runs through that commands list, and it just basically marks the current action which is processed with the green color here. There is also, you can see how it goes. Its overall progress is shown here, so I just cancel this again. Okay, there is also another time-lapse example. So, for instance, if you would like to use a time-lapse sequence, or this is an example over here I added to just give you an impression how this could look like. So in this example here, we create a time-lapse API every day, the whole week, and using 1 second exposure, and take 1 frame every minute. So this is how the script would look like for such a time-lapse recordings. Okay, that's enough for the script interface, I guess. So now we are done with the 3 capture tools. Before ending, I would like to show you a little more. You probably already know. As you may notice, FireCapture stores all of your capture details in the file. So this is stored in the file named settings.dat over here, and this is basically just a comma separated text file. So and this text file holding the history of all of your captures. So you can open this file using a tool called SessionBrowser. So this is available under the tools buttons here on the right beside the capture file name field. The SessionBrowser is also available as a standalone application in the FireCapture folder. So this is one, the SessionBrowser.exe. So you can open it as a separate application. The session, when opening SessionBrowser, it shows a list with all the previous captures sorted by date. So there is a filter selection where you can filter for profiles, and also for different cameras you may have used. Under there is a start and the end date where you can filter for sessions taken in that period. And under the start and end date, there are a couple of buttons with quick filters for the start date selection. So 0 means the day. So -1D means yesterday and today, and -7D, for instance, is last week. So that's just a shortcut for entering the start date manually. Okay. When double click on the list entry, will open up the details list. So you just see basically all entries from that list into a single window. The SessionBrowser shows you the history of all of your captures, and this can be handy if you don't remember for a specific setting and just want to take a look on it. There is another small tool for including capture details into web images. This is called ImageMagic. Given this name, don't expect too much. I haven't touched the code for years, so it's still a little ugly, but might helpful. You can open it here in the SessionBrowser by selecting a list entry, and then click on that create web image. Okay, I'm just selecting the one from where I placed in the demo folder. So when open it, so it just displays your image, and with some capture details information overlaid. So if I remember correctly, JPEG and PNG is supported as available image formats, and In the ImageMagic tool, you can select the capture details from the session drop-down box over here. These are all entries you also see in the session browser. So there are also a couple of different layouts available, and well, in the layout 1, for example, it creates three lines, and it places all the text entries. So all the initial values here for the text fields are loaded directly from the capture details and from other settings in FireCapture. Observer, scope, and location, for instance, is loaded directly from the FireCapture details, which you define under the observer settings in FireCapture. So there is no need for manually inserting a lot of values. When done, you just press the save button over here, and it just creates it stores your image back with the _web extension added to the file name, and then you have a nice looking image for a presentation. Okay, that's all for ImageMagic and the session browser. We are nearly done. One little thing before ending, which is new in version 2.5, is the AutoCapture feature, which I'd like to show you also. If for some reason you would like to start a capture at a fixed time and want to make sure not forgetting manually starting the capture, space station transit for instance, you can enable the AutoCapture timer. It's also available under the tools button, capture tools button, like the session browser, and you can just insert a time when the capture should start and press OK, and you will see the way. You can just say that I want to start the capture fixed time here, and okay, I just need to enable another option so you can see what's this. Let's just try this. I'm going to display the capture details. So now let's do this again. The AutoCapture. So I'd like to So now I see it places an AutoCapture timer over here, and when the capture is when the progress is done, when the countdown is over, it starts automatically the capture. So this can be handy when you don't want to miss, you want to make sure not to miss the capture at a given time. So I think we are done. Yeah, just one thing is that the AutoCapture over here, it will its inserted time is only valid within the current session and will not be saved. So when restarting FireCapture, the time you defined here will be lost. So that's for information. Okay, instead of restarting, we are closing now. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this more than listening to my poor English. Enjoy this wonderful hobby. All the best, clear skies, and see you next time. Bye.